here in front of the campfire. We had to bring our little smaller microphone, so please forgive us if you don't find the audio quality quite what you might have expected, but we think it's okay. So tonight, what are we going to talk about on equinox as we sit? You, you're back to the east. I'm facing north, and the campfire is ready to go. You built this fire pit yourself today. You broke up some rocks, and it's a beautiful fire pit. So you did a good job. And so now it's nice weather. It's only like 68 degrees, maybe 60.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's, what, the 8th of November? Down in Dixie, it's not that cold. Feels like a perfect weather for a campfire. And we've been camping a lot lately, and so this is like a little treat. We decided to come outside to do the show, Equinox. Last time we did the show, what was the topic? We did like trying to get people to grow their own food, get that kindling going. We got some fire sticks and everything. Yeah, we were talking about that, and amazingly, that was like 30 days ago, maybe it was 2 months ago. We just gather when the moon tells us. We don't really have a schedule. And so these shows, they kind of come natural. We're not staging anything, but we talk about stuff and we try to figure things out. Sometimes we talk about popular culture. What we really do is take a perspective from our own two eyes and just imagine how it would be, how everybody could be better off if they did little things and sort of work from there. Not like we're trying to teach you anything. We're just saying, hey, if you do one little thing, the butterfly effect does add it, and it can't hurt. People say karma's a bitch, but it's not meant to be. If you've gone 20 years trying to make every moment as best you can for everything around you as you deal with yourself, you probably find that karma is your best friend. So who knows? But anyway, we have a fire. We're grateful for that. It's a beautiful fire. And we're not even campfire builders, but this would be a fire Bob would be proud of. So what better way to go record a video for your show and come out and have a campfire? Just reminisce and have some hot cocoa, and we're eating Pop-Tarts and marshmallows. We're just having a little fun out here. You're welcome to join us on Equinox, getting our campfire really going now. Making sure we don't have too many sparks. I think you got it high enough. And we're just going to talk and do basically our podcast, but we'll have the benefit of something to show you this nice fire that he's built. Well, what I wanted to talk about was what I feel like is what I really wanted to do. It's hard to get out there at the right time, but I want to continue my study of the language of the universe. Nature just leaves a code, right, and see how logic can support various ideas. In other words, you come up with an idea, but then you go back and you support it. It's like you do that fire. So I have an idea, and it took me back to, I've read the book of Enoch, which, have you ever read that? You haven't. It was a book written by supposedly a son of Adam, or a grandson of Adam, so it was written as part of what you would call the Bible. But you understand, one of the things they mentioned was mankind wasn't intended to have writing. I just find that fascinating, because that's like such a big part of our world today. Like, for someone to take you seriously, you've got to have PhDs and degrees. Well, that's going to require a lot of writing and reading. And that wasn't the intent, to have that, or have it given to us in the way it was. Maybe the language was to be learned through nature. And it's not like, I don't think we were not meant to have it. We could definitely go with that, because you're going to have to lead the way, because I haven't read Terence McKenna.
Well, basically, that was his main thesis of all his work, was that by consuming these psychedelic substances as they moved from fruitarians in the canopy down to the plains, the savannas, they became more exposed to a different variety of diet.
Okay,
and this, these different chemicals that they got exposed to through their diet, because they were eating all sorts of meats, just whatever they could get their hands on, and mushrooms and other psychedelic plants were likely a part of that. And so that led to neural development. The human brain grew significantly in think it almost doubled in size. And so right about then is likely when language came about, and I think it was these people were seeing these symbols in nature, in the trees, in the sand there, and because you see a lot of the characters in our languages today seem to have evolved from symbology you see in nature.
Okay, so if you don't want to take it from a Book of Enoch standpoint, you could go no further than right here in the United States, you've got the Native Americans, and they certainly wouldn't have read Book of Enoch.
No.
So how would they were given this language supposedly, or maybe they were. Maybe that shit went everywhere, but who knows? But
well, their languages were so different than the Europeans that they kind of think that might back up the theory a little bit. Because
what I'm seeing in the woods is I'm seeing a language that's written. It's just too precise not to be something intended to be a language to be, and I don't think it's meant for a boar to read.
Right.
Even though it does seem to have visual connotations as well. It's more like you could see every animal or in a tree. It's just clearly silhouetted when you look at it close enough. And it's like the tree tells the story. So I think it's more like the crystals that supposedly record the surroundings, literally.
Well, it's funny you bring up the crystals. When I was building the fire pit earlier, I don't know if you remember the other day when I was smashing up rocks, but I came in and I said, I had a theory about what actually causes it to break. Because I was thinking, like, okay, so you smash it with a hammer, obviously it smashes in half, but why? On a molecular level, what's caused those molecules to not be combined into one thing anymore? And the only thing I can think of is that the instantaneous pressure of the hammer transfers the heat energy, because basically the crystal is able to transduct energy. So it transfers that energy from the hammer into heat energy, which heats the atoms, causing it to split. And that was further backed up when I took the bigger rocks and hit them with the sledgehammer. It was not dissimilar to gunshots and dynamite, is the way the shrapnel was flying around.
Okay,
So I think that the crystals, you can store them, they're basically mini explosions. So they're transducers, they conduct energy. That's my theory.
okay, and so that leads to some issues.
Okay, what's that?
Well, I mean, it comes down, and this is important to people that do climate change, and the Greta Thunberg kind of people can listen to this, and if they would just listen to the, without getting political, because we don't do politics. That's why we didn't want Bob over, because he's a little too political, and he will get there. But anyway, my point was, the problem with climatologists, they treat pie in the sky like the earth is some kind of like little thing that has to be maintained. And they don't allow for human involvement in this process. So we're like an interference. Okay, and so I think that's not the way you should look at it. I think this earth was made for man because we can hold a hammer and break a rock and expose a crystal that would be there probably till an earthquake broke it up.
Right.
So, maybe we're supposed to find these things and use them for our benefit. And we do, obviously. We have no problems banging parts of the earth and building our world with it. We have no problems with that. Go look. And so that's why my theory about if you look at a tree and you get your microscope out or your big lens and really study it. You don't have to get that. You can see these codes, these language symbols with the naked eye. It's just if you have a little what do you call it? A little zoom in on your camera. I noticed it. Just like a 1.5 extra, just to see it. And then you start, once you see it, you want to see it closer, so you can zoom, or you can get a microscope, you can do it close as you want. And it just takes you down it makes you understand the whole picture better. Is that you don't really save the earth until you understand what its place is, what's its purpose. Was it just to be there? For those crystals to stay?
I think its purpose is like a petri dish. It's an experiment that hopefully pans out into something really nice. ideally it would pan out into a species that's able to prevent global catastrophes and then move on to prevent catastrophes on other planets and other galaxies and help the universe achieve oneness.
Yeah, but don't you...
So I think that all of this is a learning experience, trials and tribulations, so you're prepared for your galactic responsibility.
That's fine. I have no problem with that. And so what that leads me is that if you've done any meditation, that's kind of central to what you wouldn't understand what I'm talking about with these symbols unless you understood kind of the bigger picture. In other words, the Earth is basically a hybrid. It has energy that comes from the well, you just call it what you want, but it comes from the air, from the heavens, and it has energy from its core. And humans are made of the same thing. In other words, you're made out of the parts of the earth, but your mentality, your consciousness came from the heavens. And so you came down here to experience this planet, and I think it was built to be a paradise for humans. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And no, because the humans, if it's a paradise for humans, it would be a paradise for
Because you notice it's already a paradise when you go to the woods and you get away from the freeways and you get away from the Walmarts and you see it just an environment. Get out far enough in the woods where you're really in the woods,
right.
and go close and go small. You'll see that, and this is in your backyard too, you'll see there's environments and everything is accommodated perfectly. Everything's luxurious for every creature except man. He has to build his own luxuries. And so he has a responsibility because he has the information, the consciousness from the greater universe down to here. And so it comes down to what do you do with this responsibility?
I think the answer starts with love somewhere. It's got to be mixed in there.
Absolutely, because that's one of your building blocks of the universe. It says so, and it doesn't matter what is it then.
And another thing would be to achieve oneness with the universe, I would say.
It's not to, I think you're wrong with that. I don't think you achieve it. I think you acknowledge it.
Well,
it's like you don't have to do anything to achieve it. It's designed that way.
Yeah, but you should be acting that way.
Yeah, but to acknowledge it allows you to experience it at the higher levels because you start to see that everything is here for your benefit. It's like this, the earth is your natural home as much as it is for the caterpillar, and the little wormwoods and the things in the woods are luxuriously appointed for. So are you. You just don't know how to manage it. See, none of those people gather. A lot of them, they work together. There seems to be a common thing that in nature they work as units, like species work together. And as you get into larger animals, some do, some don't. They have different personalities, but there's always some degree of cooperation within species. Like for example, let's go to wolves. They have packs, they have families. I think humans are designed, mammals seem to prefer to run in sort of a family pack. And so it's odd how the culture has tried to make that seem not the case. I want you to think individually and think you're insignificant. And you know, it's just the wrong approach. I mean, it's fear, negativity, greed. That's what runs this world. It needs to not be that way.
Well, that would be the opposite of oneness.
Right.
So that's why I say you should striving to love and striving for oneness. That's the left and the right. If you apply both of those principles to every decision, then that gives you a filter to manipulate this reality in a positive way.
In other words, the smaller creatures seem to be at peace with that,
Right.
with their purpose. They don't fight what they're here for. And for the most part, their existence is probably delightful.
Right, probably.
Speaking of, okay, so I don't need this light on, do I?
No.
I mean, the fire is doing really good by itself. So that's where I was coming from. I mean, going to the woods helps you with your meditation. It's like to go out and do a meditation in the woods is an awesome thing to do, especially if you get near water.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but fire is a good analogy for the whole schism. Like you see, that was like fire is the heat center of the earth. Okay, but this is above ground, so the fire needs air and it needs fuel. So a fire is perfect personification of mankind. I mean, if he doesn't have the right elements, he just becomes coal and ash, and it's not interesting.
Right.
So he has to have a fire in his being.
Fire is very interesting because it's chemistry in action. You know, this energy is stored inside these blocks, and if you give it heat, you can release it. Just a little bit of heat to get it started, and you can release this energy in a chain reaction that works continuously.
So you can stay in environments that might be a little cold. You can adapt to a lot more things than something that's specific to an area that has to have the fur just right. But they always seem to adapt.
Right.
Like a cat in the summer that's really furry, really bushy. It's always a cold winter. Around August, that cat gets really bushy. Remember that cat we had that got really fucking hairy? It was a really cold winter. We had 10 degrees, we had ice storms. I haven't seen the animals. To me, they look like they're prepared for a moderate winter here. But they go out enough. I'd say it's going to be probably a little colder than usual, but not too bad.
Already it's been colder than usual.
But anyway, the animals naturally adapt. You know, let's just say an animal finds some food source, disappears, they're able to. It has to keep going north. Eventually, it happens. The food thing happens slow enough where they can actually adapt and become polar bears. And so people don't understand. They call that evolution. That's called adaptation. Evolution is just a documentation of how species adapt to their environment, and most have amazing abilities to adapt.
Well, also, if you look at talk about humans are one of the most adaptive ones.
I would agree.
I mean, tools and interact with them, like you say, our ability to make fire makes us very adaptive.
Well, the very fact that humans are living in the tropics and in the Arctics tells you that. So they have nothing held back from this planet. They can live anywhere.
Wherever they desire.
There's a small bit of limitation as you get to the polar realm.
Yeah, it does get very difficult to
And
survive.
there are parts in Antarctica that seems like you aren't meant to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, despite the fact what countries might want to do, it's like there's some things there that we really would like to go explore. I personally would like to go there.
I would too. I would love to go to Antarctica. I think that would be an experience that would be.
Because I think there's something there that most people don't really know is there. But if you read the book of Enoch, and sometimes, I mean, I'm not asking anybody to believe anything, but I've read it, it makes a lot of sense. And so why would you not understand, use somebody's wisdom and just go with it? Like, this is how the earth was made. He supposedly tells you. And so, rather than argue over it, like, oh, flat earth versus globe, I mean, the point is, it was made a certain way. It is what it is. And no human's been able to get in a proper perspective physically to see it from the vantage point that NASA says they have, because there is a dome, according to the Book of Enoch. It's a lid. It's what we call. There's a word for it. I forgot the word actually.
The firmament.
The firmament, yeah. And so that's like literally a lid to the environment. Now it goes really long ways. We're not even sure where the moon and the stars fit into that.
I thought to me it was always very clear that was a metaphysical theory.
Well, yeah, maybe, but maybe not. And so the point I was making was.
I don't think there are any barriers between this planet and the next. I think the barriers are purely between dimensions.
My point was, if there was such a thing as this firmament, it would have to connect at the North Pole or the South Pole, or one of them. And it seems to be at the lower one, Right there, Argentina and Antarctica seems to be a place you could literally touch the sky because it has to meet the ground to be a firmament. You see the edge of the fucking earth. Think about that. That's where I want to go. I want to go to that spot that the military doesn't want you to go because they know Admiral Byrd hit the firmament. And so I want to go into that spot. And we're not allowed to go there. They don't let humans go. Military has blocked it off. We'll never get to explore that. Plus, I mean, who's got the boat to get there? You need their help to go. You couldn't. It would take a fortune to go there. They have scientific expeditions there, though. I would think probably there's as much science and investment in Antarctica as anywhere in the world. So why do we study that so hard? I mean, to me, you and I, it's like, okay, that's too cold to go to. You just think about it metaphorically, like.
Because that's a really great way to glean information from your past, because it's basically like a sterile environment that hasn't. It's like a flash frozen.
Now, you didn't go to Pablo's country, right? But you was close. Didn't you actually think about going? What country was that?
Peru.
Yeah, you actually thought about going. I mean, literally, like, you checked passports, and this is before COVID. And you were going to go, but he ended up going. But he's from there, right? So think about what it's like to be from, what is it? What country?
Peru.
Now, that's a long mountainous country. How far is the southern tip of that? I'm just getting that they're pretty close to the Antarctic, actually. So if you could get your little tail to Peru, you might be worth the trouble. I think Terrence McKenna went there, didn't he? Should have got some nice mushrooms.
He went there to the ayahuasca. That was his main purpose.
I would like to visit there, but I mean, I don't know if I'd want to actually be from there and try to figure out how to get out of that limitation of that mountainous area.
Yeah, man, you can get stuck in a lot of life there for sure. There's a lot of poverty
Because it's so isolated,
right.
And it's cold.
But it's a very good place to go, I think. If you have a little bit of money, you want to take a trip. Peru would definitely be the first place I would go outside the country. I'd go there before I go to Paris or Italy
Because you can get there.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like going to the cut rate. It's not not really a tourist area. If you're willing to kind of take a chance, well, you got Pablo. You could go. I mean, you could take a stand there for at least and get there for a week and probably be perfectly fine. But could you get back?
Yeah.
Would it be a danger of getting back?
I don't think so.
But what if you did get stuck there, like legally? You couldn't. They wouldn't let you leave.
It's not, but as long as you got some money and a way to make a little bit more money.
Yeah, but that runs out if you're really stuck there.
Yeah, but I feel like I could probably find it out. I don't have skills I could manage it for a little while.
I'm kind of like a cat. I'd like to go, but I'd like to know I can get back. I'd like to absolutely know that when I take a trip.
That many people taking trips without planning to come back, that's called moving.
I'm talking about taking a risk where you don't know if you're gonna, you take a risk, in other words. I don't see the point of that.
Well, how's it a risk?
No, I mean, I don't see any fun in taking a risk. Like, to me, like, you build a base, you explore safely, you can do a lot.
Yeah, so that's going to keep you in a very narrow mindset.
Okay, maybe.
There's so much to experience. It's kind of once you get into like the 9/11 stuff, safety's just not worth like freedom.
I imagine when you got there and spent a week there, and you get your little group, you probably just feels like anywhere else. If you're just going to be there for like 3 months, like you'd have Pablo. Now there was a place where you said you didn't fare well as a Westerner. I wasn't sure about that. You said there were places where they didn't really appreciate English-speaking people. If you didn't speak the language, you were in danger, unless you had Pablo. That would be cumbersome to have to stay with an interpreter. So that wouldn't be real freedom.
Well, I would learn the language before
Or would that be a requirement for travel, to at least know the language?
I wouldn't want to go to a country where I didn't speak the language.
So that would be your guide to a young traveler. With some of the customs, kind of know what you're getting into before you go.
Right.
And
But
then
you
it's,
can-
well, that's what I was talking about.
Well, that's like where the internet really comes in handy.
I guess we were trying to figure out why just you and I doing our, what little we do with nature, notice that nature seems to take care of, in other words, you don't see systems in disarray, or because they don't see them, they're gone. Right, so everything works, you know.
If it doesn't work, it dies.
But it also,
The thing about nature is it doesn't discriminate. If something's not working.
I don't think it's that late, but it's a pretty complicated little thing though. It's like a lot of things.
Right.
But every species, like, you know, there's creatures that just live in this kind of weather without a campfire. They're perfectly, I mean, that's that way we were talking about. It has to be that way for every creature is my point. My theory is that no creature was put here to suffer.
No.
Nothing.
I don't think so.
If it has a consciousness, it's not intended to suffer. Doesn't mean that it won't.
Right.
Because it has the choices. And it's like, that's what, I guess that's the big blast, is to set everything up, and the smaller creatures don't have as many choices. They experience, but they don't really choose a lot. They go here, they go there, they follow the leader, and, you know, but they seem to have fun doing it. It's almost like the Gestalt concept of a hive mind, like. So maybe that's what it really is that's the oneness, is that that's really the secret of oneness. Is you think of Gestalt, the academians like that word. Gestalt.
What does that mean?
It means hive mentality, one brain for many species. They all think like there's like spores. They're just behaving like something that's got a purpose, and each spore doesn't have a real identity. It doesn't really need it. It's just experiencing what it experiences. But they do understand that they're, you know, like a bee. They understand they're making honey. They understand they're doing something. And they're just out there making it happen. They have purpose. Everything is feeding their family for the most part. Eating seems to be a purpose. Staying comfortable. The bigger the species, the more he has to work for it. The mammals and the predators, they have to work every day. I mean, to me, that's like, you think a predator as a male, all he's got to do is just free food, right? Just go kill it, because you're a voracious animal. But he has to have a certain amount of metabolism, and it's probably a miserable existence to an extent, to be honest with you. It's always rationing. Does he have enough energy? He never can, he has to always be just like you and I. He has to make sure he's got enough fuel. He has to think a lot of shit. He has to take precautions.
The herbivore has it much easier. He just exists. His food's pretty much always there for him.
So I think, personally, we see predators, we have a word for them because they're not us. We don't think of ourselves as predators, even though we actually eat meat and shit. We are predators. We predators against ourselves. I mean, we can be the most vicious predator in the world.
We absolutely can. We can be terrifying, blood-chilling predators.
But you will also be subject to the lion who will eat you.
Right.
Not so much for your consumption, but because he fears what you might do to him. He's aware that you can do stuff that he's not safe with you. And he'd rather be away from you. He treats you as an enemy of sorts. But I think he was actually meant to be like an ally. Imagine if you had that lion walking like a dog as your little pal. My goodness.
I think that to truly be Zen, every creature probably would regard you like your dog. It would be calm.
It's not supposed to be, I think.
They wouldn't attack you. You're not even the rattlesnake.
Well, maybe the rattlesnake, but that's the only one, because the rattlesnake has enmity. It's the only thing that's been pointed out.
If it was the right mindset, he would. The only reason he attacks you is because he's scared you're gonna hurt him. He knows he can't eat you. He's not attacking you for food. He's attacking you because he wants you to go away.
Self-defense.
You can communicate with him.
Most things do self-defense. I mean,
tell him that you don't mean any harm, that you're trying to, you're trying to exist like he's trying to exist. If you could communicate that to him, I think everything would be fine. And I think that's what you're supposed to be able to do. I think you're given the ability to communicate with everything on this planet to a degree.
right.
And so,
Yeah, it's a nice campfire though.
really, I think Zen Master would have nothing to fear from any creature.
That's kind of how I like to
He's
look
not
at it.
providing any fear.
I like to look at it like that.
He feels no fear.
So that was our first episode of Equinox. We did that as a podcast and decided to put this on YouTube. Come around the campfire and join us if you like, and let us know if you'd like to do more of these video versions of this type of podcast, as we have over 400 podcasts on Endless Adventure the YouTube channel Show and Tell, because we're trying to bring out the best video content we had. But I wanted this show to be on YouTube, and I hope you enjoy it, and we're going to be doing more of them. And if it turns out that you liked it, we might even do more than that. Thanks for joining us. We got to go put the fire down and check on things in the homestead. Thanks for joining us. Fresco is with us. Very talented young man. If you ever check out his music, he's very talented. He's got lots of musical content on his Fresco YouTube channel. I urge you to check out his music. He's also a good artist. We're going to be doing some videos of him painting. He's very talented, and I enjoyed speaking with him tonight, and I think I hope you enjoy listening to it as well. And good night, everyone.